Steve Scalise and his great family as he continues his very brave fight. It's been much more difficult than people even thought at the time. He's in some trouble, but he's a great fighter and he's going to be okay, we hope.
President Trump speaking again today about the condition of Congressman Steve Scalise. The president visiting the House Majority Whip at the hospital last night. Congressman Scalise is in critical condition, facing more surgery and a difficult recovery. He was shot in the hip yesterday, and then that bullet also caused some internal injury. So let's bring in Dr. Mark Siegel. He's with the Fox News Medical Aid Team, also a professor of medicine at NYU, and you can give us a little bit more insight. I do want to say we did receive this official update, the last update that we've received on his condition. We're told that his medical situation is complicated, and they're evaluating him in 12-hour increments. Why would that be?
The key here is bleeding. You know, at the scene, the issue was bleeding, putting on a tourniquet, which was done, pressure on the wound, which was done, rapid resuscitation of fluids was done, fly him to a top level 1 trauma center was done, get him into surgery right away. Fragments of the pelvis had splintered from the bullet and lacerated major organs in the pelvis. So it went into the hip, and then it kind of just went all the way across, exploded. Exactly, and so major organs were lacerated. Now, they can sew them up, depending which organs we're talking about, the bowel, the bladder, possibly the kidney. Those are the things you think about. They could sew them up, but there's also major arteries down there. And so they do their job. They go in surgically, Heather, and then they come back and they see if the repair's held, and then they have to follow blood counts over the next day or two to see if they can keep the blood count stable. He's in critical condition because his vital signs weren't stable initially, meaning that he was going into shock.
But there was a point yesterday where we received an official statement saying that he was in stable condition. So I left here yesterday afternoon hopeful, thinking, oh, he's going to be okay. And then, you know, by tomorrow or by yesterday evening, we were hearing that he was in critical condition.
Because the hospital released a statement yesterday afternoon, and then last night they released some details which were extremely helpful. And I was in touch with our own Griff Jenkins last night about this, and he was talking to the staff. All the detail helped us to understand the situation. Again, that his vital signs weren't stable because of the bleeding here. But if you can control the bleeding, and I know our viewers want to know what they can expect here, I think if you can control the bleeding over the next 24 hours and his counts stay stable, it will be looking a lot better for him. That's the key, the hemoglobin count, literally the hemoglobin count. Also, what President Trump said is hugely important here. He's a fighter. Courage and never giving up actually helps enormously in this situation, and that also improves the possible outcome.
We heard from one of the congressmen who was on the scene yesterday when all of this happened, and he was looking for the entry point of the bullet and for the exit point as well. If the bullet is still inside, will it remain there, or when will they take that out?
That's an excellent question. They're not going to repair the bones right now. They leave the bone fragments there because that's not crucial to recovery. What is repairing the organs and the bleeding. The bullet only matters if it's near a vital organ or near a major artery, like a renal artery, something like that. If they're worried about the bullet migrating, they might remove it. Otherwise, they may never take the bullet out.
So timing was of the essence there at the scene and also at the hospital.
Timing was huge. It's been great ever since. He's not out of the woods, that's for sure. But monitoring him closely over the next 24 hours, I think we're going to have some answers here. Can they keep his bleeding from recurring? That's the key.
Yeah, some additional information here on this latest report said that the pelvis, as you mentioned, was shattered, causing a host of internal issues, not the least of which was the bleeding. And he's looking at another procedure today, and it's unclear on the status of that.
You know, and those procedures are usually to make sure the bleeding hasn't recurred, or where they put the sutures in holding. Is there additional problems? It also depends which organs are involved.
Which organs possibly would be involved?
Well, something like the colon. I mean, that has a lot of blood supply. That can bleed very easily. That's down there. The rectum is down there. The bladder is a huge problem, but they can oversew the bladder. Did the bullet go as high as the kidney or the liver? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, knowing that some of the witnesses there, some of his colleagues say that when he was shot, he was around the second base and that he was leaving a trail of blood behind him, but he was moving and he was trying to drag himself to outfield to safety. Does that tell you anything?
Well, I feel that the fact that he was awake and that he was awake all the way to the time he was in surgery is a very good sign that he hadn't lost that much blood at that point. Then later on, he lost more blood. But I think the rapidity with which he was transported, again, the pressure put on the wound and the fact that surgery was so quick, also makes it more optimistic.
Yeah.
A lot depends, though, on the next 24 hours.
I was going to say, you know, do you think he'll be okay? That's what everybody wants to know.
Everyone's hopes and prayers are with him. I'd say it's been the best possible care so far. I'm optimistic.
Which is good news. All right. Well, let's hope that he's going to be okay. We'll all pray for him, as you said.
Absolutely.
Dr. Siegel, thank you so
Great to
much.
see you.